One day, Takafumi learned that his uncle Yosuke, who had been in a coma after getting involved in a traffic accident 17 years ago, had woken up, and he goes to meet him. Upon arriving, Yosuke starts talking to him weirdly, which prompts him to think that Yosuke is suffering from mental problems, which only solidifies after Yosuke claims that he was excited to return from the other world called Granbahamel after 17 years. Yosuke tries to prove to Takafumi that he really went to another world by using magic in a foreign language, which doesn't work. But suddenly, Yosuke triggers a wind magic while speaking Japanese, and Takafumi is shocked to see that the Isekai journeys are real. A week later, Yosuke gets discharged and he moves in to live with Takafumi in his apartment. Meanwhile, Takafumi decided to monetize Yosuke's powers and started posting videos of it on YouTube, which helped to generate 60,000 yen in ad revenue. Yup, our protagonist is a fellow YouTuber like us. Takafumi asks Yosuke about his companions in the other world, to which Yosuke informs him that he was mostly solo for 17 years. But Yosuke talks about one particular person who followed him around regularly, harassed him, and verbally abused him. As Yosuke continues to talk more about the person, Takafumi realizes that the girl was a tsundere, and remembers that the concept of tsundere didn't originate until 4 years after Yosuke departed for his journey. Yosuke then mentioned how he once innovated an item in the other world, and showed his memory about the incident using the spell. He had crafted an ever-brimming pot of water, using spell cards, for a village suffering from a drought. But in reality, the villagers had tried to hang Yosuke, because the item was sacrilegious, and they smashed it. And while the villagers were trying to kill Yosuke, the elf arrives to stop them. While the elf was trying to handle the situation, Yosuke took the chance to escape. Takafumi asks if Yosuke ever meets any other girl in the other world, to which Yosuke agrees, and shows him his memory of saving a girl and her siblings from an orc. While initially thankful, the girl eventually overcomes with despair upon seeing Yosuke, and decides to sacrifice herself by giving herself up to Yosuke, to save her siblings' lives. Having misinterpreted the situation, Yosuke thought that the girl was happy and thankful to him, but he suddenly blanks out, and thinks that some goblin might have attacked him from behind, and threw him into the river. But Takafumi notices in the memory that the girl's siblings were making suspicious moves while trying to get behind Yosuke, and considered the possibility that it wasn't a goblin attack but rather the siblings attacking Yosuke from behind. Later on, Yosuke is saved by the elf. And in order to thank the elf, Yosuke forcefully puts a ring on her finger, which surprises Takafumi. But he later takes out the ring, and sells it for money, and gives the money to the elf, much to her disbelief. One day, Takafumi learns that Yosuke didn't play RPGs due to his lousy memory surrounding the game mechanics. The mentioning of RPGs jogs Yosuke's memory of a time that reminded him of an RPG encounter he had in the other world. Casting Ikura's Elrin, Yosuke shows Takafumi a memory where he fought against the villagers who called him an orc and tried to hunt him. After defeating them, he learns that the legendary dragon of the fire shrine was trying to destroy the village. And the only way to defeat the dragon is with a special ice sword from the Ice Clan. However, the descendant of the clan is a cold-hearted girl named Mabel. Upon meeting with Mabel, she tells Yosuke about a particular flower that her mother once showed her. Yosuke then leaves and reaches the fire temple. He slays the dragon himself without needing the sword. Takafumi argues how Yosuke should have retrieved the flowers for Mabel, but Yosuke claims that it'd be too hard for him to remember. Walking home at night after a shopping trip, Yosuke talks about how the city's atmosphere that night reminds him New Year's Eve in the other world, thus piquing Takafumi's interest. At home he casts Ikura's Elrin, to show Takafumi his memory of a New Year's Eve party that he attended. Although everyone was happy and having a wonderful time, Yosuke was ostracized by all of them and he ate alone. He then returned to his room for the night, and the memory ended. While playing games at night, Yosuke shows Takafumi his memory of Mabel, who had the ice sword on her person, asking him ways of how to overcome being a coward. Yosuke gives her a motivational speech, but it takes a drastic turn when he learns that she's a shut-in introvert, and he suggests her to stay that way. The memory ends after Mabel offers her the ice sword, but he declines it. With that, Takafumi gets up and asks if Yosuke wants some soba noodles, and he accepts the offer. On New Year's Day, Yosuke is talking to himself, and this creeps out a woman named Fujimiya. Suddenly Takafumi approaches her, and we know that they have been friends since middle school. Takafumi invites Fujimiya over to his place, and she agrees. 30 minutes later, Fujimiya arrives and receives a text from Takafumi about how he's out getting snacks, but he will be home soon. Fujimiya enters the place, and shortly after, Yosuke arrives by flying through the window. Shocked by seeing another person in the house, he quickly tries to erase her memory of what she saw, but Takafumi stops him in time and explains that she's his friend. Afterward, Yosuke and Takafumi explain to Fujimiya about Yosuke's background, and reveals that he is a YouTuber. Fujimiya argues about the stupidity of their situation, and says that Yosuke should leave Takafumi's life and live his own. But Yosuke deduces that she loves Takafumi, and Takafumi declines the fact coldly. One day, Takafumi informs Yosuke that he will be jobless soon. The cause of this is due to YouTube's newly imposed restrictions of wanting users to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time from users in order to monetize their channel. Takafumi is confused as to why they haven't reached those parameters yet, but finds out that the source of the low viewership and sub count is due to Yosuke's reply comments. Yosuke then confessed to Takafumi that he hadn't seen such a response from people since his time in the sealed city, Loveldram. It was at that time, 1,000 monsters broke through a barrier surrounding the place. Dying to find out what happened, Takafumi sees the memory when Yosuke was in the city. In the memory, as the elf talks about the barrier surrounding the town, Yosuke casts a spell to destroy it out of whim. And an army of giant cyclops, led by a cloud dragon, then appears outside of the city, ready to invade the place. The elf tries to fight them off, but when she leaps into action, the barrier re-erects around the city, and she crashes into the reformed barrier. It turns out that Yosuke asked the spirits to repair the broken barrier. In return for not telling everyone there that Yosuke broke the barrier, the elf asks him to take her to dinner that night. However, by that time, Yosuke had fled on a wagon to avoid being extorted by her in the future. Recalling that he used to ask the spirits for help in the past, Yosuke pleads on his YouTube page for people to subscribe so that he can monetize his channel. By that time, Sumika arrives and wonders what is going on there between Takafumi and Yosuke. Once Takafumi is gone, Yosuke tries to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Sumika about Takafumi's relationship with her. However, Yosuke's comparisons with video game romances don't align with her. Hence, Yosuke steps out of the room, and when Sumika tries to apologize to him, Takafumi's aunt appears. Takafumi's aunt looks exactly like Elf, only in Yosuke's clothing. She then tries to continue her heart-to-heart with Sumika, until Takafumi returns home and realizes that it was his uncle Yosuke. Excited upon seeing the transformation magic, Takafumi suggests that they create another YouTube video using Yosuke's transformation magic. Although Yosuke refuses at first, Takafumi convinces him by promising to play Guardian Heroes with him. On Sumika's 20th birthday, she joins Yosuke and Takafumi to enjoy beer and snacks. Since Yosuke doesn't have a proper present for Sumika on her birthday, Yosuke gives her words of his philosophy: a pinch is a chance. Yosuke goes on to explain the meaning behind the phrase. Impressed by the philosophy that Yosuke imparted to them, he shows them the first time he had alcohol in the other world. Takafumi and Sumika were shocked to see how similar he looks in present times. The elf then appears in the memory, wearing a lovely green dress, and Takafumi explains to Sumika that she's Yosuke's stalker, much to her surprise. As the memory continues, Elf confronts Yosuke about the barrier that he broke the other day, and, as a bribe to not tell anyone about the barrier, he offers to buy her food to keep her mouth shut. The elf then changes the subject by talking about how he once saved her from a deadly venom dragon. But he just brushes it off as hard work and training. They then talk about the blaze dragon that Yosuke killed without the ice sword that was necessary to kill it. Showing proof of his achievement, Yosuke shows Elf the blaze dragon fire he got as a spoil, to which she reveals that it would be revived if he opened the bottle. Yosuke then recites the catchphrase that he mentioned earlier, revealing that he learned from a Pyo strategy guide of a game book. In the present, Takafumi and Sumika are speechless upon hearing this, and Yosuke then goes to play some Pyo. As the memory continues, Yosuke takes a reluctant elf back to his inn, and leads her to his room. While everyone thinks that a plot is going to happen, Yosuke simply thanks the elf for taking him back to his room like a polite Uber, and goes to sleep just like that. Agitated by Yosuke's actions, Sumika gulps down her beer, and forces Yosuke to drink too. This causes him to become drunk, and when Sumika tries to bail out of it, Takafumi stops her, and Yosuke decides to take her home using a wind spell. We then see the three of them fly high in the sky, while Sumika is scared of falling to death. If you have enjoyed the story so far, like the video, and comment, Ikura's Elrin, for more amazing content. Until the next video, stay safe, and thank you for watching.